was once again Jessica Simpson, and it talked about everything from her posing nude in a magazine exposing a pregnant body to all the tweets she was sending out to her fans to paying this facility so many millions of dollars per day to give birth out of the way in privacy. It's insane how much coverage ET has been bringing us of this. I just wish they would learn to leave well enough alone. I mean, you don't need to crucify the poor girl. As I mentioned here earlier in the show, she's been involved in entertainment ever since the age of 16. She's been in reality television. She's had her own show called Privileged, going all over the world. She's recorded music with virtually every kind of celebrity you can think of. She's been involved in that big divorce thing from 2005 that first broke around the holidays of 2005 and carried over to the early part of 2006. And it seems like Jessica Simpson is one of those guys that can just kind of just vanish, come back and do something and then talk about it again. It's ridiculous. I just wish they would leave this kind of thing alone. I'm tired of hearing about it. I mean, I always refer to people like Britney Spears and Jessica Simpson as people who don't have to do anything for 5 or 6 years and they kind of just vanish, aren't heard from. Then they come back, release an album. In Jessica Simpson's case, after getting married, she goes away, comes back, puts out an album, and is talked about again from here until the end of the earth. And now she's being talked about again because of this pregnancy thing. Very few, some celebrities have to do very little, and they're talked about, and it's just crazy. Here I turn on Entertainment Tonight and find out that Jessica is 9 days late, and just because she's 9 days late, they're crucifying her. It's insane. I can't imagine how much publicity she's going to receive once the child is born. Obviously, she'll release a couple of public pictures, but I really have to blame Twitter at twitter.com Jessica Simpson for all of this. I believe that it's partially Jessica's fault, and I'm going to tell you why. And you can tell me if you agree with me or not on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. It's partially Jessica's fault because she is the one tweeting these photos. She is the one making these videos. She is the one releasing these statements. And if she wasn't releasing these statements or making these photos or making these videos and posting them publicly on her Twitter page at twitter.com Jessica Simpson, she wouldn't be receiving as much attention. But because she's using Twitter as an open forum to kind of talk about it and publicize it, then she's receiving this negative publicity. She's receiving a mixture of positive publicity, and it's all clashing together, and it's making a huge news report for a website like TMZ.com, and it's making a huge news story for Entertainment Tonight. That's the reason why we turn on ET here earlier this past week and see it as the top headline. It's almost as if Jessica's kind of putting this stuff out there to become the center of attention. It seems like no matter where Jessica goes, she's always the center of attention. She just recently had a baby shower. A lot of celebrities, including Ashley Simpson, attended it. And that received just as much publicity as anything on Entertainment Tonight. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's almost she's just kind of putting herself out there to be talked about. And the question I have for our listening audience is this the right kind of thing for Jessica to do, especially coming from someone who's paying a facility so many millions of dollars per day to give birth in privacy? It's a very unorthodox method. I can't say I've seen anything like this done before. A lot of celebrities have had very different approaches to giving birth, everything from checking themselves into hospitals under different names, like Beyonce recently did. We've seen so many outrageous things when it comes to celebrities and giving birth. Jessica says she's going to try to stray away from giving an outrageous name to her child, like we have seen people like Beyonce and Jay-Z do, naming their child Ivy Blue. I'll never forget hearing the name of the child for the first time, thinking to myself, how crazy and how delusional do you have to be to give your a child a name like that? I mean, you have to be kind of out there. Hopefully Jessica will have a everyday name for her child. She says she's going to try to stray away from naming her child anything outrageous, although that remains to be seen. Maybe she'll fall into the same category as all the different celebrities we have seen give birth over the last number of years. Most recently here, Hilary Duff had a story publicized about herself and her son's umbilical cord on MSN.com. It seems like they're kind of putting this stuff out there on Twitter and Facebook to, have themselves talked about. Hilary Duff recently succeeded in that on MSN.com. Just a couple of days ago, she was the top headline there. And it's only a matter of time before Jessica Simpson is the top talk of MSN.com. She's been there before. I was just on MSN.com the other day. Thought I'd throw that Hillary Duff story out there. So Jessica Simpson isn't the only one using these social media networks to kind of put herself out there. So it's partially the entertainment world's fault, but on the other hand, it's partially the celebrities' fault, because it's almost like they're putting themselves out there to be talked about. It's kind of an act of self-promotion, in my opinion, that's very unnecessary. And I think that if we didn't see these kind of things popping up on Twitter and Facebook, then they wouldn't be talked about as much. It's just absolutely crazy, how far a celebrity will go and how desperate on times they can seem to be wanting to be talked about. I mean, Jessica Simpson's been talked about, from my opinion, and speaking from my perspective, ever since I could remember, ever since the release of her first album. I mean, I remember old songs by her, and how much she was talked about from those songs, and how much she was talked about in her early 20s, and how much she's going to be talked about now after this child. It's just insane. It's someone who is never left alone. But it's because of Facebook and Twitter a lot of these celebrities are talked about, because now they have an open forum to put these photos out there, to put these messages out there, and just kind of put themselves out in the open to be talked about. It's almost like a promotional ploy on the part of Jessica Simpson and her production company, in this case her father and the people who produce her records, just to be talked about. It's almost like a promotional ploy that is working, because it's just insane. So, the blame can be placed on a number of different parties. Yes, a certain portion of the blame can be put on E.T., a certain portion of the blame can be put on internet web shows like this one, a certain portion of the blame then has to go to the celebrity themselves for using Facebook and Twitter to post these photos and videos, and then you have to put a certain portion of the blame on the actual social media websites that should have restrictions put in place to prevent this kind of thing from happening. But because publicity is achieved for not only the celebrity but the social media site themselves, they're not going to put any kind of restriction in place for this kind of thing, because it puts them over the top, especially Facebook, that just recently surpassed the 900 million user mark just a couple of weeks ago. I saw that tweeted on Twitter time and time again since Facebook surpassed that, setting an all-time record for a social media website to break. It's probably a record that'll never be broken, and as long as Facebook have that many users, they're not going to put any restrictions on anything. I mean, we had the 60 photo limitation recently being lifted. No restrictions whatsoever seemingly on Facebook, except they block you from adding people and block you from sending messages after you send a certain amount, because they don't want to have spamming on their site. But I really wouldn't call that a restriction. What you need to do is you have to have certain restrictions on these websites to prevent this kind of thing from happening, and as long as we don't have those, this kind of thing is just going to kind of keep happening over and over and over again. It's crazy. It's only a matter of time before Jessica's face is once again on the headlines of MSN.com. One of the things that I found outrageous about Jessica's pregnancy was that she was 9 days late, and just because she was 9 days late, bang, it's the top headline on E.T.'s website and the entertainment news program. I mean, E.T. is only a half an hour show. It's on 5 nights a week, and it's on the weekends with their weekend edition program, and their weekend one, I believe, runs for an hour. And, they use a 22-minute show. They use about 15 minutes of it to talk about Jessica Simpson. I mean, for Christ's sake, the girl's only giving birth to someone. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, yes, she wants to enjoy the love of a child and raising a child before it's too late, and she's just being criticized about it. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, yes, I will admit to you, I've been a Jessica Simpson fan all of my life, and I've followed her career for the majority of my life, and will continue to follow her career for years to come, because I was always a Jessica Simpson fan. I mean, yes, when I was a teen, I had the Jessica Simpson posters on my wall, but who didn't? Who was a male? Who didn't fantasize about Jessica Simpson? I fall into the same category as a lot of people who are probably listening to this show. So yeah, I support Jessica Simpson. I support the decisions she makes. I always believe she had an incredible amount of talent. Could have been distributed better, and I really do give her credit for trying different things, trying a little bit of everything from music to movies to reality television to this pregnancy thing that has received an overwhelming amount of publicity, too much publicity in my opinion. and I will continue to support Jessica Simpson. The thing I don't agree with is, I don't agree with how the entertainment news programs and the entertainment news websites like Perez Hilton, TMZ, ET, are treating this kind of thing. Yes, maybe it's because of the good relationship they've had with Jessica over the years, but they're kind of crucifying her, not only her, but her entire family. Photos of not only herself, but herself and her mother, herself and her sister have ended up on websites like ET and entertainment news programs. Yeah, they're used to that kind of thing, but they really need to be crucified as much as they're being crucified. I think they need to leave the Simpson family alone. I mean, yeah, it just goes to show a celebrity doesn't have to do anything. They can go away for a number of months and come back. All they got to do is put out an album or get pregnant and they're talked about again. And Jessica Simpson is no exception, but I just wish they would leave this kind of thing alone. And until websites put in certain restrictions, put certain things in place, we're going to see this kind of thing again and again and again. And if it's not Jessica Simpson, it's Britney Spears. If it's not Britney Spears, it's Lindsay Lohan. I mean, Lindsay Lohan's going to be on Glee. Who really cares if Lindsay's on Glee or not? It's just another thing for the entertainment news programs to talk about that relates to Lindsay Lohan. I mean, if it's not one celebrity, it's another. It's always the same 5 or 6 celebrities that are crucified, never left alone. Lindsay Lohan crashes her car, ends up in jail, talked about. Lindsay Lohan ends up in court, she's talked about. Jessica Simpson gets knocked up, she's talked about. I mean, this kind of thing needs to stop. I mean, it's the same thing day after day with the world of entertainment. You never hear anything new or anything you've never heard before. We've heard this kind of thing hundreds of times. Before Jessica Simpson, it was Beyonce. Before Beyonce, going way